Hi, I'm Matthew Anderson. Welcome to Question and Answer, and Happy New Year to all of you. We certainly hope that we can contribute by giving you some good, solid information. Leading off the new year for our Q&A team are Dr. Carolyn Dean and lawyer Marianne Shaw. Welcome, both of you, to a whole new year of questions.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, too. Now, Carolyn, I was going to ask you if maybe you have some golden rules for starting off the new year with a whole new, fresh approach to good health.
Yes, a new approach to health. In the new year, I would say to focus on wellness and taking responsibility for your own health. In the Chinese model, doctors are paid for keeping patients well, and when you get ill, then you stop paying the doctor. I think that would be nice.
Okay, Marianne, holiday season, happiest and unhappiest times for a lot of families. Have you got any advice for couples who might be facing a divorce or a custody petition in the coming year? And more, is there any way to avoid the bitterness that involves children or such things?
Well, I'm not sure whether it's the season that produces it or whether people think that it's not the right time to separate during the Christmas season. So one may lead from the other. I don't think that you're ever going to get rid of all the bitterness all the time. But I think people have to focus a little bit more on the children and the fact of whether they're at your knees or whether they're eye level with you. I think you have to think about what they're going through in all of this and put some of your concerns and some of your emotional traumas behind you and look after those kids.
Well, that sounds like a good recipe for taking a nice, healthy approach to a separation. Okay, let's get on with some specific questions from our viewers. We're starting off with a video letter on the subject of vitamins.
Hi, my name is Danny O'Gorman. I'm from Thunder Bay. I have a question for the doctor. And I've often wondered why the physicians would, when you ask them about vitamins, would turn you down as to their benefit or say that there is no benefit. To me, it would be, it makes a lot of sense to take a look at vitamin usage as a way of prevention of diseases.
Well, now, Carolyn, I don't take any vitamins at all, and that's mainly because I believe that if you eat a, properly balanced dinner or 3 meals a day, you're not going to need any. So before we get to Dan's question, maybe you can tell us about whether you support vitamin therapy, and if you do, why?
Okay. Right now, there's a huge debate on even about the recommended daily allowances of vitamins. It's usually thought just to take a vitamin to prevent a deficiency. Well, over the past 20 years, there's been so much scientific information that actually is proving that vitamins are preventing disease, preventing things such as cancer and heart disease and birth defects. So I think we have to look at that. And studies show that we aren't taking in the recommended amount of vitamins and minerals anyway, and blood tests show that we don't have enough vitamins and minerals. I have some brochures that we can show you, and they're from Hoffman LaRoche Pharmaceutical Company, and they've done a lot of research to bring to doctors, and doctors can right away for this information and bring to doctors. We have various pamphlets that I'll show and tell patients what is being studied in the current literature about vitamins and the need for them.
Okay, well, getting back to Dan's point, do doctors discourage vitamin therapy, and if they do, why?
Well, I don't know that doctors do discourage it, but if they do, it's because they haven't read the literature. It is there in overwhelming amounts, and as I said before, the literature does prove that chemoprevention is going to be helpful to prevent diseases in the future. And I think we should start talking about putting this in our medical schools. It's a 20, 30-year-old science, so it's only young. But I think the public might have to start asking for more information about vitamins.
Okay, well, we've got Dan on the phone, and he'll probably have some more information that he'd like to ask about vitamins. Hi, Dan. Happy New Year. Welcome to Q&A.
Same to you, and the best for the new year.
Thank you. You too. Now, I think you have another question for Dr. Dean?
Yeah, when is the medical model going to encourage wellness instead of illness?
Great question, Dan. Well, that's what I've been working toward in my medical career for the past 15 years. Medicine is the diagnosis and treatment of disease, and as long as you have that model, wellness does take a back seat. And I think as I said before, it's going to be very important for the public to start asking more for this information. When 20% of the Canadian public is going to non-MDs for their health care, then it means medicine has to come up to scratch and start teaching us these things.
Does that answer your question, Dan?
Yes, it does. I think there's a lot more that has to happen in the whole, delivery of the medicines and delivery of healthcare that we need to look at in the future.
Yes, and we all have to work together on it.
That's right.
Well, that's great. It certainly sounds like something I'd like to get involved in. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, Marianne, I know you probably had a New Year's resolution about not answering any more questions on fence line disputes, but alas, here we are, top in 92, ready to ask you your first one, although it is actually sort of related to a question you answered on another show.
I just watched tonight's program, December 6th, and the question raised on fences by the caller was along the lines of whether a fence should be built on his side of the property line or should it be built on the property line, split, the cost being split 50-50 with the neighbor, all in agreement with the neighbor. And his question was along the lines of what would happen or what possible problems could arise in the future at some time after the fence was built. What happens if the neighbor's house is sold and a new neighbor moves in? How is the fence treated at that point? Thank you for your attention.
Well, now, Marianne, there's really two issues here, isn't there? If you buy a house in a new subdivision development, then you don't really have a neighbor to negotiate or split the cost of the fence with. But then 10 years later, if you sell the house, it's more a typical resale situation. So is the fence issue actually seen differently in these two instances?
What I think we need to look at, Matt, Sue, is the issue around the fact that we've got two different types of land registry systems here in Ontario. One is land titles, one is the registry system. Under land titles, even if your fence is over a couple of feet, you're never going to acquire a possessory right to that 2 feet of land that may be on your next door neighbor's lot. On the other hand, if you're on registry system, then you have to take a look at how long has the fence been there, what have you done with the land, have you dealt with it openly, without consent, and so on. And the issue here is check your deed of land. Does it say land titles? Does it say registry? If you're not sure, maybe you want to ask your lawyer. Maybe you want to check with the local registration offices to see whether or not there's, where you fall. So in a local subdivision, it's likely you're going to be under land titles. It may be in the City of Toronto that you're under the registry system, and there's going to be two different sets of rules. But it's like sewing a very fine piece of material. There's lots of convolutions and different things that go on with land disputes and so on.
Right.
And so I think that there's two rules that you have to follow. Number one, if in doubt, make sure that your fence is on the lot line. And number two, love thy neighbor, because that's going to mean a great deal to you. And we could get on into agreements of purchase and sale and how that deals with things and so on, but it would take us a very long time to do that.
Okay, well, I think you handled it with very good nature. Your first fence line question, you notice I said first. Carolyn, the next topic is of universal interest, and it's about asthma.
My name is Helen Stanley, and I'm calling from Niagara Falls. My phone number is 416-358-7002. My question is, what is the leading cause of death from asthma? In Canada, I understand the death rate is rising quite seriously, in adults especially. And I just wondered if it was improper medication management or what. Thank you very much.